Welcome! This video contains an introduction, an interview so you can gain deeper understanding of the subject from spirit level, and a group frequency calibration so you can start to clear the frequency distortion patterns around this topic. Enjoy! Hi everyone, this is Karen Cheong, and I'm here with my co-host Dennis Kelly. We all have a powerful tool in our frequency work toolkit that can dictate the speed at which we move up in frequency resonance and also how quickly our physical reality shifts to keep up. Not everyone knows about this tool, and even among those who do, there are those who are not ready or willing to use it. Today we're going to discuss what this critically important tool is, some common pitfalls, and how to know if you're ready to use this tool yourself. After the discussion, we're going to wrap it up with a group frequency calibration to help you begin to remove the distortion patterns around this topic. So let's get started. Dennis?
Well, Karen, you've got me kind of intrigued here. So you're saying that we're going to be talking about one of the most powerful tools in the toolkit. What is it?
I know, it's like, what's into the box? What's in the mystery box? Come on! All right, so what I'm talking about is confirming the removal of the distortion pattern that is causing whatever issue that you're having, okay? Or, so now this may be very practiced for some of you who are doing this. However, it is such a fundamental tool that we often forget about, that it's important, in my opinion, when we are becoming masters of our frequency bandwidth, that is us, to review the basics. The better you become at the basics, the better mastery you have. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. And for those of you who are newer, you don't know what this is. Okay, so that's why we're talking about it for you guys. So for everybody, I believe that we can learn something from this, and we're probably going to discuss it in ways that you may not have heard before. So that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about confirming the removal of the distortion pattern and why it's so powerful.
So the first thing is, Karen, do I know that moment when I truly have released that distortion pattern so that I can confirm the release? I mean,
yeah.
I logistically, I hear what you're saying, and I can sense how important it is for that confirmation, but what is that point in time where, I confirm that I release that?
So before I get to the logistics of your question, I'm going to back up out of it. Okay, and I will answer it, but I just want to back up and explain to you what's happening. So for some of you, this will be review, and for some of you, this will be brand new. But I just want to explain this to give you context about why this tool is so important. So as you may or may not know, when you do frequency work, whether it's an individual frequency calibration or a GFC or a deep dive or a class or whatnot, any kind of frequency work, what I'm doing is I'm removing the distortion pattern on spirit level. Okay, which is, of course, much higher in vibration than the denser levels of the physical, mental, emotional bodies, okay, which are, of course, because you're embodied, vibrating at a much lower resonance. So what I do when we're working together in those situations of the IFC, GFC, etc., is that I delete them out of the field that is not the embodiment, okay, in terms of the denser field. The reason confirming the removal is so important, just to rephrase, confirming the removal of the distortion pattern is so important, is because you have free will. So in order for you to completely remove it out of your field, okay, at least that layer that we're addressing, you personally need to confirm the removal of that pattern out of the physical denser fields, meaning the physical, mental, emotional realm. Okay, because that then, again, it's an exercise of free will. So you're saying, I don't want that pattern. It doesn't exist for me. I'm deleting it. Okay, so basically you are changing your rendering. All right, and so I'll talk about what the rendering is in a little bit. All right, so you're changing the how you render the version of yourself and your reality by deleting that out of the lower resonating realm. Okay, so I'm going to now talk about the rendering, just so you can understand what I'm talking about. So All right, you have your spirit body at arm's length all around you. Okay, and anybody who has done a GFC or any kind of work with me will know what I'm talking about. And when you have your spirit body at arm's length around you in a sphere, that is projecting what a rendering of your physical body, and from there, your physical reality. Your brain is actually the mechanism in the physical reality that creates the illusion of your body and your physical reality. Okay, so your spirit body is projecting this rendering in the center of itself. That center is your physical body and then the physical reality. Okay, so when we release the distortion patterns on the spirit level, it's typically in the space between the physical body and the spirit body, and sometimes at spirit body level, okay, especially if it's like a time-space distortion. All right, I know I'm getting a little technical here, but I'm just telling so you understand what you're doing. Okay, so where has it not been released out of? The physical body, right? Because I just said that I release for you out of the space between the physical body and the spirit body and the sphere all around you, and potentially at the spirit body level. Okay, then it's gone. But you need to release it at the physical body level, the very center of the rendering, the very center of the sphere, because you have free will. Okay, I can't take this journey for you. You must do it yourself, which is a wonderful thing because it's very empowering. Okay, as scary as that might seem for some of you, it's actually a very empowering thing. All right, so you have the power to change how you render your body and your reality. Okay, you may not feel that way, but you do. Okay, that is your power as co-creator. All right, and that's a much more advanced topic that we'll get to another time. However, what you're doing is changing the rendering from the physical level. Okay, so that's why it's so important. So to get back to your question, Dennis, which is how do I know when I've released it? Okay, so for those of you who don't know about it, there is an entire group frequency calibration dedicated specifically to confirming the removal of the distortion pattern. Okay, it's like, I went long. I think it was like 35, almost 40 minutes long. And it's like a 5-step process. It's very simple. I do it with you. There's a lot of frequency support, okay, for you to release and remove or confirm the removal of the distortion pattern. So how do you know when it's done? Okay, so for those of you using the GFC, when you're moving along with it, you'll just know that it's complete. Okay, so you'll receive that knowingness in a couple of ways. So some of you just know. Some of you can feel it, meaning you have a sense of it that's not physical. Some of you have a physical sensation, meaning you can feel it come out of your body. Like there's a release in the body. There's an opening. There's a breath that changes. Something in your spine adjusts. There's heat. There's tingling, right? Some of you have goosebumps. This is like a physical sensation. Some of you just have like a feeling sense. It's not physical, right? It's an awareness, a perception. Others of you, like I said, will just have a knowingness of it, which is a little slippery because you can't tell. There's less certainty there. And for some of you, you'll just have to trust that it's the way it is because you can't tell it all. All right. So those people are smaller in number, but there's almost like this sense. It's a very vague sense that something has changed, and it might disappear over time. Now, for those of you who experience it that way, that's the hardest one to be with, right? Because you can't tell. So you just have to trust that it's working. Okay, for those small number of you who don't have any of those other things that I mentioned. So that's how you're going to know. The other way you're going to know is you may experience a form of detox, meaning that you start to see things shift or reorganize in your physical reality, okay, in a way that's not comfortable to you, or possibly that is even desirable to you, right? That happens a lot, but that's usually after the integration. And also you will encounter situations where you are being forced to confirm the removal. So, Dennis, you have a question. I can tell that you wanted to ask something. Go ahead.
Yeah. I sorry to interrupt you, but Kieran, I was thinking about doing a GFC with you, and so when you're working with the GFC, you kind of go through and you find pockets of distortions, and so you work on this one, you release this one with the group, and then you move to this area and you release this distortion, and then you kind of move on, and it's like you bump into another one, you say, whoa, what do we got here? And you release that one. So the question I've got is, when you talk about confirming the removal, after a GFC, could this be kind of a mass confirmation where all the work that I've done on this evening, I confirm the release of that from my physical body?
That's a really interesting question. So what I would say is to wait. So when you complete the GFC, okay, of whatever topic it is, all right, I don't know, whatever the topic is, I would just wait for a little bit to allow for that to start to percolate through. What you're going to notice is that instead of just like right away trying to confirm, remove, watch to see what life gives you. Okay, so just allow yourself to integrate. Okay, so meaning that it will show up in different ways, right? So you might not need to mass confirm, remove right after the GFC. That doesn't preempt the integration process. So meaning, I would say allow that GFC to percolate through, and then you'll notice, so stay aware and notice yourself. Because sometimes what happens is those emotions, those thoughts need to be experienced in order for you to confirm the removal. Does that make, you can't preempt it. You have to just allow for them to come up, to resurface so you can see them, right? So part of it is, again, we've talked about this before, Dennis, awareness is such a huge part of frequency work. You're aware, like, geez, I didn't even know I had that feeling. I didn't know I had that mental thought, and it's really just bothering me. Where did it come from? That's because it's coming out of you. That's at that moment you would do the confirm the removal of the pattern, or that night to help you confirm remove it if you're getting some stickiness. Or you might see somebody that comes into your path that day who exhibits those same distortions that we just released. So for example, if we've just done something on, I don't know, low self-worth, and then all of a sudden some comes into your path and is really struggling with that, you're like, oh, wow, I can tell the distortion patterns are leaving me because this person showed up, right? And is exhibiting all those distortion patterns themselves, or I'm interacting with someone else and I'm being triggered around low self-worth. Like I feel like I don't have very much of it, that type of thing. That's, again, a moment for you to confirm, remove the pattern without listening to the GFC, to just like press it out of your field. So you're confirming, removing as life, and yourself releases the distortion pattern in the time in which you are releasing them. So you're surrendering to the time. It's better to allow that to happen and then do the confirming the removal of the pattern GFC to help facilitate that. Because at that point, you're releasing it out of your field already. You're using the momentum of the original GFC to allow for that process to come where the distortions pattern is being pushed out. Then you confirm and remove the pattern, right? And if you're having trouble with that or want more momentum with that, then you listen to the GFC to help give you more momentum.
And so just from a time standpoint, this could be within hours of the GFC, this could be the next day, this could be a week later. And
yeah,
because like you say, you're working kind of at the spiritual level, but the confirmation is truly at the physical level. And so
yeah, physical, mental, emotional, typically. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you get done with the GFC and, well, I confirm that I release all that and let's move on.
Done. Well, for some of you, you don't experience detox, right? There is a small percentage of people who don't experience detox. They just integrate. They're just like, done, right? So, yeah. And
I know we've talked about this before and you've addressed it before, Karen, but just as a reminder, so what does it mean to confirm? Is that mentally just out loud, or just a thought to myself? Is it that simple? Is it, oh, I had that awareness, I can see the situation, I can, I really appreciate deleting this? Is it just a mental process?
I think you're asking, do you mean confirm and remove, or do you just mean the confirm portion?
The confirm part of it.
Oh, the confirm part of it. Yeah. Thank you. So the confirm part of it, yes, is to just have awareness, right? Is to just have awareness of what's happening. So I'll just give you a little example, okay, of how this might show up and how powerful this is, just to help people, okay? So I had a client who was really struggling with holding her space. Okay, so she was we would call like a people pleaser, right? She always was trying to fix everything for everyone. She was the one who organized everything for everyone, whether it was family or friends or whatever. She was always the one who took care of everybody. That was her thing. Okay. And as she started doing more frequency work, she realized that she was feeling exhausted and heavy and burnt out and not a super high resonance because she was taking on everyone else's stuff. So as we started to work together, we were releasing distortion patterns about low self-worth, holding her space, all this sort of stuff, taking on other people's burdens, all this sort of stuff, right? So we're releasing these distortion patterns, and she would notice where things would get louder for her, where more people would demand things of her, and she would really not want, she really wouldn't have the time or the energy to be able to do that thing. And she had to really learn to, for her, the confirming of the removal of the pattern was to say no. Okay, for her to be like, and for her, it was hard to say no. So we had to release a bunch of distortion around that. And it was for her to say something like, I can't right now, but I can later. Right? Or I hear that you need help with this. I can offer you this at this point, but not everything you're asking for. Right? So that's how we baby stepped into it. And so eventually what happened, so what happened is that people around her got a little upset because they always expected her to be the cleanup person for them. And she started to learn that it was and hold her space with, okay, it's all right that they're upset with me, right? It's still not worth it for me to sacrifice myself in that way. And she continued to hold her space and get stronger. And she, it was really cool because at the beginning of one session, she said to me, I'm so proud of myself. I've had this huge breakthrough. There's this friend of mine who is very draining for me. And she's always assuming that I'm going to be able to have her over at my place whenever she's in town. And this time she told me she was coming in, and she almost expects me to almost be like a hotel. Like she's coming in and like maid service rolls out and like my home is available to her. But this time I said to her, I'm sorry. I'm feeling tired at this moment. It's not a good time for me. You can't stay with me this time. You're going to have to find somewhere else. Now the person was totally shocked and then of course angry. But she just held her space, and she did great. And at the end, she was very proud of herself because she's like, I didn't really want that person here. And I feel really wonderful that I put myself first and that I won't be drained and I won't have to feel obligated to do this anymore. So it was a real breakthrough for her. So it was a series of confirmed removal of the pattern that got her to the point where she could say no to somebody she felt was before taking advantage of her. So that was a huge deal. So that's what I mean by how powerful it can be, because it can really shift who you are. And she's starting to do that more and more with different people in her life and getting clearer so that, and it's really a beautiful thing to witness because it's a sort of her acknowledging the importance of who she is. It's not just about everyone else. It's her brilliance, her own worth without having to get it from someone else. So it's a really beautiful thing to watch.
I think that story that you just told, Karen, really brings out the fact that you truly have to have skin in the game. So yeah. I come to you and I would love for you to just dissolve all my challenges and then I walk away. But, you're working at spirit level, but truly I have to be part of this. And this confirmation and this removal is not going to be fully integrated unless I'm involved.
Yeah. And in fact, it's not effective, right? So what will happen is, there's a couple of types of people out there, generally speaking, and there are many types of people, but generally who come to me for help. And the first kind, they don't, let's call it type A, they don't want to, or let's pick a different letter that doesn't have anything associated. So they're type X, let's just say, okay? So they're type X, and they don't want to have any kind of personal accountability. They're very often deep in like a victim pattern, or they just want to be saved. So they're going to all these different healers to try and change their circumstance, which is very awesome, right, for them to do. But they keep hitting walls. And when they come to me, they're looking for me to save them, because that's in our culture, right? A lot of times the person who's receiving the work is disempowered and they're being saved by whoever's doing the work with them. Okay. I just want to step back and remind you, this is a collaboration between you and your higher self and me. Okay. So you, as you say, have skin in the game. So part of this is, if you don't take personal accountability, as you just say, what happens is I will delete the patterns on spirit level, and then you'll call them right back in. They'll call them right back in because they like that victim state. They want to perpetuate that drama. They say they want to get better, but part of them doesn't also, right? They want to stay in that disempowered state because it's part of their story. It's part of their identity of who they are. So frequency work doesn't really work that well for them. Do you see what I mean? Because it's never released. They don't really want to release the distortion pattern. So they kind of want to shift their circumstance, but not do any of the work and see the part that they're playing in it. So that's one type of person. So frequency work causes, it doesn't work very well for them. It doesn't cause anything. It just, what happens as a result in their response to the work is that because they keep inviting those frequency patterns back in, and because they are attached to those patterns, and it bolsters their identity, they just spin, right? Which is really frustrating for them, and they don't see a lot of change, and the world still is against them, and things still happen to them, and they want to blame it on a whole bunch of different things, right? But they don't take the accountability to change self. Then let's call it the person type Y. This type of person wants the change, and they're willing to do what it takes to get there, right? So they want to look at, they're like, okay, well, this can sometimes be painful because I have to see things in myself that I don't necessarily want to see, but I have the power to change this. I believe that I can change my circumstance, and I need a tool to help me do that. Look, here's something called frequency work. Wow, this is like a super powerful tool. Tons of stuff is being deleted. And because I'm participating, by having accountability, by looking at myself, by doing the confirming of the removal of the pattern, my life is changing super fast, okay? Either on spirit level or physical level or both. And I can feel the difference in myself. The way I perceive my reality is changing because I'm willing to take accountability and empower myself. That type Y person is like a perfect match for frequency work because there's a tremendous amount of speed that is given to that person as a result of the empowerment that they choose to take. So, yeah, frequency work can be great for the right person.
I'll tell you what, Karen, you just did a fantastic job of really describing exactly what it is that you have to offer and what it, the impact it can have for an individual. So that was amazing. So I can see why you're saying that the confirmation of the removal is so important, because that's me stepping forward and saying, yes, I'm aware, I confirm, I'm ready to release it, and let's move on.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's when, Dennis, all the magic starts to happen. So at the beginning, it can be hard for some of you, okay? Not everyone. Some people come in and literally their lives change in one session or one GFC or one deep dive or one weekend, right? On an online event, like change their lives. For others of us, it can be a little bit of, at the beginning, it's like crunchy, right? Because you're releasing all this distortion pattern and it doesn't feel very good. And you're seeing all this stuff come up and you're getting triggered by all these people and you're like, right? It can feel not great, right? It's kind of like a cleanse. But instead of cleansing your physical body, like when you do, if you've ever done a cleanse where it feels not great at the beginning, you get headaches, you feel tired, you look cranky, right? However, if you persist and you release that stuff out of you that hasn't been serving you, the clarity and the momentum that comes after can be amazing, right? You just have to get past the initial crunchy point. So once you get going, right, whatever it is, whether it's instantly or a little bit after that, there can be a tremendous amount of momentum. And then, as you know, Dennis, from doing the work yourself, the amount of magic and synchronicity and opportunity and inspiration and collaboration that it can come from it is spectacular. And really, you can't really plan that. It just sort of starts to happen. You don't even really think about it. It just kind of appears. And that's when it gets really, really super fun.
Well, thank you very much for sharing how extremely important it is for the confirmation part of this process. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen, could you help me? I hear so often when I look at your video or your website, GFC. Exactly what is that?
A GFC is a group frequency calibration, which looks a lot like a guided meditation on a particular topic. And what I'm doing is I'm helping you to remove the distortion patterns of that particular topic. And because you're coming together as a mastermind in a group to connect to pure source even more and to clear the distortion patterns of this particular topic, what happens is a tremendous amount of momentum starts to happen because of the energetic of the entire group. And each individual is able to move faster and ascend higher than they could have on their own. Welcome everyone to the GFC for the biggest tool in your toolkit. Okay, so there is an entire GFC on confirming the removal of the distortion pattern on the website. This is a very thorough and very supported on frequency level GFC to empower you to confirm the removal. Okay, it's a very simple 5-step process. This particular GFC is to clear out any stumbling blocks with regards to using that tool or feeling empowered enough to use that and to release any distortions around resistance to this kind of acceleration that can happen from confirming the removal. Okay, it's like turbo fuel. It's the turbo fuel of frequency work, okay? That you are empowered to do yourself. So, first, bringing your attention to your body. And as you bring your attention to your body, becoming aware of the soles of your feet. Really become aware of the soles of your feet, what they are touching, the texture of the clothing or the sheets or the upholstery that they are in contact with, perhaps even the floor. Good. Becoming aware now of how you are holding your weight and how your weight settles into whatever is supporting you. So just notice that, please. How you're sitting or lying down affects this, or if you're standing, how that affects this. If today you have more attention or less, just notice. Your weight against whatever it is that is supporting you. Yep. Good. And now please notice your breath without changing it at first. Just noticing how your breath is in this moment. And then taking a moment now to really lengthen your breath, to allow it to enter spaces within your body that it may not have touched before. Allowing it to become more round, to fill your front body and your back body. Good. Now please become aware of your surroundings. Blinking your eyes open, noticing the quality of the light, even if you are sitting in semi-blackness, just noticing the quality of the light. Good. Yep. And now please triangulate. So what triangulation is, for those of you who are new, is when you identify 3 inanimate objects in the space around you, and you notice the distance between each of the objects and you. So for example, if object A is the chair, you may notice that the chair is about 6.5 feet away from you. And then you're going to feel the distance between the chair and you. And you're going to do the same thing for objects B and objects C. And you'll notice that as you do this, your sense of where you are in space somehow clarifies. Good. Bringing your attention, whenever you're complete with that, to your heart space in the center of your chest in your nipple line. Taking a nice big breath here, holding your breath for a count of 4, and then releasing your breath, holding it out for a count of 6. Whenever you're ready, keeping your attention on that same spot. We're waiting for the mastermind to coalesce. So just breathe normally. For those of you who are new, please note that I am working on you at the group and the subgroup level, and that I often work in silence. So if you don't hear me, it's because I'm working with very high frequencies, and to make physical noise does not benefit you. I also sometimes do make physical noise. You might hear me hum or yawn or exhale sharply, and that's how I remove the distortion patterns, especially those that are lower level or sticky. Also, please note that if I say something that resonates, it's likely yours. And if I say something which you really resist, that's likely yours too. And I encourage you to remain open and to examine further. Bringing your attention to the xiphoid process, right at that base of that sternum. We're going to go ahead now that the mastermind has coalesced and become coherent. Ask ourselves the following question: how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source. And that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? As you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of the space at the very center of your body. And as you become aware of this vast space, imagining or being aware of a brilliance at its very center that you either see or feel. And as you keep your attention on this brilliance, it intensifies and very naturally expands outwards through all of your cells, through your organs, your bones, out through your flesh and your muscles, out through the pores of your skin into the space between your physical body and the outer perimeter of your spirit body, which is a sphere at arm's length all around you. Being very aware of the brilliance within the sphere. Good. Now please become aware of the space all around the sphere. And as you become aware of this infinite space, I'm working on spirit level to increase your frequency resonance, irrespective of where it began. Good. The higher your frequency resonance, the more momentum you gain on spirit level, the more effective this session, because it's from the highest resonating order, and the faster your integration. Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Bringing awareness to your heart space. Yeah. So this is the resistance to discomfort with, or fear, depending on who you are, around taking accountability and having this much empowerment. Only you have the power to do this. No one else. It's your journey, your free will. So again, a lot of power. Releasing the resistance to this power. And resistance to the accountability. There is a pretty sizable subgroup that doesn't want the accountability. No one can save you but you, or make things change other than you. So let's release this. Becoming aware, please, of the back side of your brain stem, and also the vertebrae in the back of your neck. Yeah. So this is a lineage pattern. And this is fear of the speed of change. Okay, it's like not safe, or not predictable, or not particularly comfortable. It's also, to some degree, not controlled by you in terms of your conscious mind. This is scary for a large number of you. I'm going to release this, because having all those things so far has not gotten you to where you would like to be. It's in fact kept you stuck where you are. So releasing this. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Bringing your attention to your heart space. This is the fear of leaving some people you love behind. So with this much change that can happen, it can very much impact relationships, which is scary for some of you. Okay, so let's release this. And for others of you, there is attachment to things being like manageable or similar to the way they are now because it seems less scary. Let's release that because it's capping your own potential. There's some people who have a very different experience extremely quickly with this work. Good. Bring your attention to your xiphoid process, right at the base of your sternum. This is this layer, the attachment to certainty and to comfort. Okay, there's more layers for many of you, or most of you, but this is the first. So you're releasing this. And for some of you, this is something you have come up against before and have released. This is the next layer of that. For the more advanced people, this is about not only detox, right, from the confirm removal. You're actually going to purge. So it's not just using whatever confirm remove of the distortion patterns that we have just released. It's actually using that momentum to purge even a greater, deeper layer. Okay, so that's for the more advanced folks. So whichever group you're in, doesn't really matter. Working on both of you. Good. Yeah. Bring your attention to your xiphoid process at about 3 inches or 7 centimeters directly beneath it towards your belly button in a straight line. Clearing out your pain body for a couple of seconds. Good. This brings us to the end of this session. I look forward to working with you on the next GFC. These GFCs help people release distortion patterns. It's my sincere hope that you benefit profoundly from this series. which is why I spend so much of my personal resources creating these as my gift to the world. If a GFC topic resonates with you, often more work that can be provided in this one GFC is needed to really clear or loosen deeply held distortion patterns in areas that are sticky. Because these patterns are like layers of an onion, usually there are multiple layers to individual topics. Depending on how much of a challenge this topic is for you, it may make sense for you to go deeper than what this session allows. If you feel this is the case for you, please visit sphericalluminosity.com for more targeted support.